Hey, what's up guys? John here. We're stepping into a once in a lifetime opportunity for entrepreneurs to make an absolute killing. An absolute killing. And the reason being is because of what's happening in the market that you don't know about. And that's unfolding at this very moment that's going to be so clear in the next 45 days. And it's a small provision that was in the CARES Act. And what is this provision? Well, this provision tells commercial landlords that they're not going to report the status on their buildings, whether they're current on their mortgage or not current. And this isn't just in New York, this is national. They're not going to report the current status on these commercial properties. So what's ultimately happening is that no one really knows the true extent of brick and mortar retail and commercial real estate in America, and that's all going to change 60 days after January 1st, 2022. We're about 20 days past that. So, about 40 days from now, we're going to really start to see the true picture of this. Now, this is the big question I ask myself, is how is this going to impact the economy? And what can we all do to capitalize on this opportunity? Because there's going to be a big investment opportunity here. And where is the future going to look like in this new age? Well, this is what I'm thinking is going to happen. So over the last 2 years, interest rates have been relatively low and investors have been concerned about inflation. So what have they done? They've borrowed fixed rate debt and acquired hard real assets as a shield against inflation to bring in cash flow. But the thing is, when interest rates are very, very low, 3%, 3.5%, they can borrow money cheap and the cost of buildings greatly increases. It becomes a seller's market like we've all experienced. But what's very fascinating now is that rates are now increasing, and because of the rental rates of interest rates increasing, what we're seeing is we're going to see the cost to borrow money increase. And as the cost to borrow money increases, the values of buildings comes down because it becomes more expensive to afford that mortgage payment. So what are they going to do? They're going to now have to take in the true state of the economy with this new provision. And what is this going to look like? Well, I believe what we're going to see is we're going to see all these landlords across the board try to go refi their buildings if they have not done so already. And they're going to refinance them based on the last 2 years cash flow, 2-3 years cash flow. So an appraiser or financial regulator is going to go out there and appraise that asset. But what's unique is that during the last 2 years, commercial rent has almost been an option. So what is happening is that the cash flow on these buildings is greatly being reduced. And when you factor in reduced cash flow and heavier borrowing costs associated with buying a building, what do you have? You have lower property valuations. And if these investors, these landlords that own these buildings owe 60 or 70% loan to value, they're not going to be able to get a refi on their buildings because the values are going to be coming down. And when we look at this, what are they going to do? This is the big question I ask myself, is what is going to happen? What are the banks going to do? I believe that the banks are going to try to retake possession of these assets. And during that period, they're going to have property taxes, maintenance, other expenses associated. And I believe that this is going to provoke more fear in the market. I think they're going to hold back a little bit on lending, and I think they're going to be a little bit more restrictive on who they actually lend money to. And then I think they're going to try to sell these assets. But the big question is, what is the true value of these properties? Because the entire economy is changing and it's basically going online. We have supply chain issues where the cost of almost everything is through the roof. So you have rising costs, you have rising minimum wage, rising taxes, everything is going up, and new restrictions and regulations. It makes it very challenging to evaluate what the true value of these properties will be. So I believe that they're going to come out with a conservative valuation, and I believe that private equity funds that are sitting on, they reported roughly $963 billion, so almost $1 trillion in cash on the sidelines. They're going to be waiting for this bloodbath to hit the market, right? And so this is what I'm seeing and why I think we're in a great opportunity. All new investors, all aspiring entrepreneurs, people that are starting businesses online that have been anticipating a real big financial problem ahead. why we are in good shape is because while everyone else thought that the party was over, the reality is that this entire market, this entire commercial real estate market has been almost like a house of cards or a game of musical chairs. They're about to now turn off the music. And so what I believe is going to happen is I believe smart entrepreneurs, they're growing their businesses, they're scaling, they're doing what they can, they're refining their properties, they're trying to put money aside to get ready for opportunity. And I believe the opportunity in commercial real estate is going to be huge because I believe that there's going to be so much fear in that space. But I also believe there's going to be some other challenges. I think the Great Resignation is going to only increase. And I think that rather than seeing about 3% of the entire workforce stepping away from their job every single month, I believe that's going to get expedited to 4% or 5% because a lot of small businesses are going to have to permanently close up shop. And what I think that's going to be unique here in this specific scenario is I believe that commercial landlords that have equity in their buildings, they're going to reduce the rent on their buildings to attract tenants that will 100%, at least in their eyes, pay rent without problems. Franchises, like larger corporations, Burger Kings, they're going to try to do whatever they can do to bring in large franchises, even if they have to reduce the rent. And so what I think is ultimately going to happen is the investors that acquired properties over the last 2 years at a 3% cap rate now are seeing rents fall. They don't have much room to move. So they're not going to be able to reduce rents 15 or 20% if they have to because they don't have the margins. They'd be operating these buildings at a complete loss, which could then push them overboard as well. So huge opportunity coming, I believe, in this real estate space for all aspiring entrepreneurs. So this is the moment to study your market, to look at the demographics, to look at incomes, to understand regulation and landlord-tenant law, to really study everything that's happening because this is in my opinion, like a planned situation that's about to unfold here in this economy. And it looks to me like it's going to be a lot worse than 2008. 2008 as a whole was simply very reckless lending, very bad policy, coupled with some other issues, right? This scenario, it was a built-up house of cards where rent was optional. Everything was optional. Now we have crime through the roof, which is crushing retail. If you look at the losses that mom and pop stores and Target and Best Buy are all going through right now because of theft and smash and grabs, it's ridiculous. It's through the roof. And because of this, who takes the loss? It's those stores. And so they're taking losses across the board with rising costs, smash and grabs, increased minimum wages, increased taxes, everything's going up. What I believe is going to happen is that the landlords that can refi or that just have the margins are going to drop rents to get the better tenants. And then the other investors that acquired assets over the last couple of years at a 3% cap rate that have maybe a 70% loan to value on these buildings, meaning they have 70% debt, they might not have that much room to reduce their rents before they themselves are operating their buildings at a loss and they have to walk away. This is why I think we're stepping into a big opportunity, because as rates continue to rise, we're going to start to see more pain and more people that can't hold on. And as the famous saying goes, blood is made and money's made when blood is in the streets. And that's kind of what we're stepping into right now. We're looking right now at the stock market over the last 10, 12 days, 14 days. We're seeing a lot less confidence in 2022 than we were in 2021. And to me, it looks like this is just the beginning of the problems. And I think that what we're also seeing too that's unique in this scenario, that's different than say like a 2008, is that we are now seeing a whole new level of consumer spending and consumer confidence and travel and tourism and where they make buying decisions. Everything is changing. That was not true in 2008. Now we have roughly $1 trillion or more in credit card debt, where household debt is through the roof. We have all of these things hitting at the same time. And so I think that we're going to be stepping into a downturn. I think it's almost inevitable. And in downturns, opportunity is made, money is made, and this is the moment to seize. A great bit of advice is to look at the problems that we're going to be facing in 2 years or 3 years and build out a business that's going to support those future problems. Because a couple of years from now is going to go like a blink of an eye. I mean, look at how fast the last 2 years have been. So drop your thoughts below. What do you think is going to happen in the commercial real estate space? Do you think it's going to be a bloodbath? And subscribe here. Consider subbing on my second channel. Catch you guys in the next video.